Hello, the main objective of the present lab is to examine the motion of a spring mass system in which the mass swings in an arc while oscillating on the spring, integrating theory, experiment and computational modeling. In the framework of the present lab, I analyzed the video of the motion using Tracker in order to extract the object's position and the corresponding time. Subsequently, based on the physics principles, I constructed a computational model predicting the motion of the spring mass system. Finally, I made two separate estimates of oscillation periods based on the observations made with Tracker for the x and y position data of the mass. According to the results of the lab, the constructed computational model predicts well the motion of the spring mass system. While the system moves, its energy changes forms, however the total energy of the system is conserved. Moreover, the results of this lab state clearly that the power of iterative application of the momentum principle and computational modeling can be used even in those situations where no analytical solution seems possible. Based on the momentum principle, consequently, we have the shown equation. Consider a block of mass m connected to a spring as shown. Our goal is to derive an equation for the position of the block as a function of time, which predicts the position at any time in the future. The block does not move along the z-axis, neither along the y-axis. Applying the momentum principle, we have that the net force along the z-axis is 0 and the normal reaction of the sliding surface is equal to the weight of the block. The net force acting along the x-axis is the spring force, and at this point we will point out some math theory. The derivative of sin theta is cosine theta, and the derivative of cosine theta is minus sin theta, not the negative sign. So, if we differentiate the cosine function twice, we get the minus cosine function. Also, if u is a function of t, then by using the chain rule we have the shown relations. In the momentum principle equation, if we replace x according to the math theory mentioned above, then we have the shown equations. Finally, we can have an analytical solution for the angular frequency in the period of the oscillation. For the mass spring system, we were able to obtain an analytical solution, in other words, a prediction for any time of the motion of the spring mass system. However, for many systems, the differential equation corresponding to the derivative form of the momentum principle has a mathematical form that cannot be solved analytically and must be solved numerically. The power of iterative application of the momentum principle and computational modeling is that they can be used even in those situations where no analytical solution seems possible. I enriched the visualization of the model by representing the existed forces with arrows. Because the net force exerted on the system is relatively small, I chose the vector representing the net force to be magnified 10 times in relation to the vectors representing the spring force and the weight. I set the mass of the block to be the same as the vertically oscillating mass discussed in the video lectures. I set the initial position of the block according to the observations made with Tracker. Since the values of the calibration length and the relevant masses are the same as the vertically oscillating mass discussed in the video lectures, the stiffness of the spring must be the same too. I was based on the iterative application of the momentum principle for predicting the motion of the block, and I specified the energy changes to be plotted in the graph window. Here is the model when it runs. As we can see, the computational model predicts well the motion of the spring mass system. In the graph window, we see that as the spring mass system moves, its energy transforms between potential energy due to the spring, red line, potential energy due to gravity, green line, and kinetic energy, blue line. However, there is no change in the total energy of the system, gold line. Since there is no significant interaction between the system and the surroundings, there is no work done, and subsequently the total energy of the system remains constant according to the law of the conservation of energy. I copied the position data extracted with Tracker to a spreadsheet, and I made one estimate for the oscillation period from the X position data and another from the Y position data. I started when the mass was at the far right edge of its motion and the value of X was at its maximum value for the first time, and I noted the time pass until the value of X be again at its maximum value for 6 times in a row. Subsequently, I calculated the average period of the motion along the x-axis. In the same way, I calculated the period of the motion from the y position data. Furthermore, based on the data extracted with Tracker, we observe that the minimum and maximum values of x and y are as shown. The maximum distance the mass travels along the x and y axis and the periods computed based on x and y positions data are shown on the table. The fact that the period computed from the x positions data is larger than the one computed from the y positions data makes sense because the mass moves a longer distance along the x-axis. Thank you for your attention.